Told you I'd be wearing a different shirt on the second days of recording. Yes, indeed, this is round 2 of Creative Outlet Podcast intro for the Gaming Birthday Extravaganza episode recordings. And I have to say, it's been kind of interesting over the last day or so doing things. I've got the rest of my stuff all hung up here, so I'm sure a couple of different things look different in the background. And I got this nice question mark block on my 3 drawer shelf that I had initially elsewhere, but now I've moved it over here with a nice little Kirby plush on top of it. He's backwards because I thought you might be able to see it reflected in the mirror, but it's hard to tell on the tiny little camcorder. But beyond that, it's been fun doing other things as far as uploading just a ton of stuff all at once, being able to get out all at once and planning to see how things are going to be. Of course, it's fun to see how the audio aspect of this is going to be, because I realized, one of the great things about Anchor is that I can just make my podcast into pieces. So instead of just having to go into Audacity here and putting together the intro and putting in a little sound in the middle and then doing the bigger piece of audio and putting that as one file, I could just make it easier on myself here and put them all in pieces in Anchor, and then it'll go through and play them all for you. In fact, it mashes them all together when the podcast gets distributed to other platforms like Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, etc., etc. But you're not here to learn about all my fun new room changes. There's probably not going to be a separate studio video because I just did that yesterday, and it's really not all too terribly different beyond a couple more signs that you might not even necessarily be able to see. You're here to learn more about the Donkey Kong series, because that's what today's episode is on. So as always with these intros, I'd like to bring up a little bit of news that is relevant about our given topic. So I just have 4 little pieces here. Maybe this will make this a little bit of a shorter intro. I don't know. But I want to start with this, apparently this quote-unquote super rare Game & Watch limited edition that sold for $9,000, which, I mean, that's no drop in the bucket as far as I'm concerned, but apparently that is 1 million yen. And I would say for a Game & Watch, especially a limited edition unit, this is actually pretty darn cheap, because I mean, just a plain Jane Game & Watch nowadays can go for a couple $100, which is why I don't have any other than my handy dandy Super Mario Brothers limited edition 35th anniversary Game & Watch. But this particular Game & Watch is a special unit that was commissioned by members of the Game & Watch team, Gunpei Yokoi, as well as a couple of folks here that are only noted by their initials, a K Momose and a T Ishida. I don't know exactly who these folks are as far as their full-blown names. The article does state what their titles are in some way, shape, or form. But these are some folks that were instrumental like I said, in different ways at making the Game & Watch come to be and making it successful. After all, this piece here was commissioned because it was the anniversary in 1982 commemorating 20 million Game & Watch units sold. And it's appropriate that they would pick the Donkey Kong Game & Watch to be the game to use for this, because it is only the most popular Game & Watch, the one that contributed to having 20 million units sold inevitably. And it shows. It is, after all, the cheapest Game & Watch, the most common one to find. If I were to get one, that's probably the one I would get, because that's, like I said, the cheapest one. Although I can play Game & Watch Donkey Kong through the Game & Watch collection on my Nintendo DS if I really wanted to, so I don't know, not really much value for me, but it is interesting to see that limited edition hardware has been around even as early as the Game & Watch days. Now, something a little bit more interesting is a bit of a random thing that happened in late June. Does it say who it is? Oh, an individual used the process of ion milling. I don't know why I'm reading iron as ion, other than how darn similar the words are. Stripped literal layers of atoms to engrave an itty bitty 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 teeny teeny tiny Diddy Kong on a penny. So right next to Abraham Lincoln's shoulder on this random penny is a tiny Diddy Kong that you cannot see to the naked eye. And after all, I mean, even Abraham Lincoln in the Lincoln Memorial, this is an old school penny before it had the stupid shield that I don't think is nearly as cool as Abraham Lincoln sitting in the Lincoln Memorial. But there's just a tiny Diddy Kong set of atoms just extracted off of this penny. And I think that is a pretty neat little idea, though I'm not sure why Diddy Kong of all of the Kongs for it. I would feel like, the main man himself, Donkey Kong, would be the better Kong for this. But, if the person who did this is more a fan of Diddy, more power to them. Similarly, one of the games we're going to be talking about in this episode is Donkey Kong 64. And now I didn't get too much into this particular aspect of Donkey Kong 64, but one of the common themes among the rareware platformers of the Nintendo 64 era, or at least something that was supposed to be common among them, was the stop and swap feature. If you don't know what that is, that was a feature that was planned to be in Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, and utilized in Donkey Kong 64, where players would be able to stop, turn off the console, and swap out their rareware games to because certain information would be stored in the system RAM of the Nintendo 64, and so it could be still accessed when the new cartridge was placed in the 64 console. However, when the development unit's out, that amount of time was about 10 seconds. In practice in retail units, it would have been, I don't remember if it was 1 second or less than 1 second. And so really all that would accomplish is damaging either your Nintendo 64 games or your hardware. So stop and swap didn't end up getting to be, even though there were references to it in Banjo-Kazooie. As far as the particular details for what Stop and Swap would have included, we just happen to know here, at least more specifically, why Donkey Kong 60, or at least why these games did not end up having it, is just a letter was found in late January. Wow, this is an old article. I thought I was only pulling things from the summer, but I guess I found something from the winter that clarified more specifically why the feature was removed. But although I just kind of explained it here, that's the agreed upon reason. Now, one big thing that I've noticed with Donkey Kong, the series, is that there hasn't seemed to have been a ton happening for it as of late, outside of the Tropical Freeze port to Switch. However, one area, and I do believe I cite this in the Futures segment, I actually do not recall, but one of the things that Donkey Kong seems to have going for it is there appears to be some sort of attraction or additional little world coming based on the Donkey Kong Series 2 Super Nintendo World. Of course, only the Japan park is open, so for all we know, by the time the Hollywood Studios, Universal theme park, and or the Orlando theme parks are able to fully open their Super Nintendo worlds, they may have the Donkey Kong attraction, whatever that would end up being in there. But it seems like more and more details are pouring out about this, or at least it just seems like the designs used in this mysterious area appear to be very Donkey Kong-like, but we just don't know exactly what in the end we will see. Donkey Kong does seem to be the one Mario character that doesn't have much representation in Super Nintendo World as is, so it would be appropriate to have the second mini world in Super Nintendo World be focused on Donkey Kong. But with that, I think that just covers all the newsy things I wanted to cite here. I figure we should formally get into our going back in time for the recording that I have done here. As always, in these Creative Outlet Gaming Birthday Extravaganza episodes I have planned for the fall of 2021, we're going to be giving an overview of the series, talk about what my experiences are with it, just talk about some factual information, see like why things are revolutionary, and move on to see what could the future of this series be until addressing some sort of special topic. And you know, there was no series better than Donkey Kong to have for this. Although I suppose Zelda had, I would say all of the series actually had pretty interesting topics here, including the Super Nintendo, just as a console, had a fairly interesting topic of its own. But I feel like the Donkey Kong series is especially right because of how weak Donkey Kong 64 as a game is, because what I wanted to address, there are a few design flaws in that game that I feel like could be very interesting to come up with different solutions to address. But in this case, I went with the most classic problem, the one that is most frequently cited as an annoying pace breaker in Donkey Kong 64. How do we go about the issue of switching Kongs and making that easier and more convenient, while also not losing the value of having something like switching the Kongs? After all, one of the most common solutions that I've heard put out is just map the dongs. That could have been bad. Map the Kongs to the directional pad. Although I identify how that could actually have some worse issues than people realize. So with that, I will let you all back into the original episode. Please enjoy, everyone.